to Malaysia, where an independent investigation into the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 has failed to turn up any answers. The just-released report spans 1,500 pages. Michael Serapio has the details for us. So, Michael, walk us through this report. 1,500 pages and no answer?
No answer, and the families at this point, Hannah, are already expressing their disappointment at this report. Now, Malaysia Airlines MH370 Flight 370 disappeared in 2014, and this report was prepared by a special investigation panel. But despite the size of this report, investigators cannot answer the most important question. Why? Why did this all happen? Now, as people may remember, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 departed Kuala Lumpur on March 8th of 2014. It was headed towards Beijing. It made its last communications with air traffic control some 38 minutes after departure, but after that, the crew was never heard from again. Now, military radar did track it for another hour as the plane made a diversion away from China before disappearing altogether. Debris was found a year later off the shores of Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean, but no bodies were ever found. And as to the why, well, today's report only says it can rule nothing out, though they are hesitant to point a finger of blame on the pilot. Take a listen.
We are not of the opinion that it could have been an event committed by the pilot. But at the same time, we cannot deny the fact that there was an air turn back. We cannot deny the fact that, as we have analyzed, the systems were manually turned off with intent or otherwise. We are not ruling out any possibility. We're just saying that no matter what we do, we cannot exclude the possibility of a third person or third party or unlawful interference.
Now, let me pick up there, because by stating that they believe the plane was manually diverted, investigators are ruling out any mechanical or computer malfunction. But who is responsible for that deliberate change in course? Well, investigators say despite massive searches, there's not enough hard evidence to know. This is frustrating the families. But at this point, Malaysia is closing the book. That is, unless new information comes about that opens up the investigation in years to come. But at this point, the conclusion is there is no conclusion, Hannah.
Thanks for the latest, Michael.
You're welcome.
For reaction to the latest findings, we reached former pilot and TSB accident investigator Larry Vance, and he believes the plane was deliberately crashed into the Indian Ocean and is also the author of MH370 Mystery Solved. He joins me from Ottawa. Thank you for joining me. So, a 4-year investigation, a 1,500-page report, nothing, no concrete conclusions. What's your reaction?
Well, it's very disappointing. It's discouraging. It's a sad day that they could spend 4 years looking at the evidence in this case and miss the most critical evidence of all, which is the evidence that washed ashore in the wreckage with the wreckage pieces that we do have available for examination. That's the most critical evidence, and they put virtually no stock in the evidence that's available from those pieces.
What did they miss from that evidence?
Well, they missed the fact that when the airplane was deliberately put onto the ocean surface as a ditching event, that the flaps were extended. And given that the flaps were extended, we know that the pilot had to have extended the flaps. We know that the pilot deliberately put the airplane on the ocean because it was at a low ditching speed, not a high-speed crash. This was a deliberate event onto the ocean surface, and they missed all that evidence. They don't even make an attempt to look at it.
So you say that the plane was deliberately crashed. You say it was the pilot or the co-pilot, correct? But the report dismissed that, specifically saying investigators found their mental health was fine, that there was no anxiety, no stress in the audio recording. So how do you square that?
Well, they went with the idea that because they couldn't find a particular reason why the pilot would do this, that the pilot could not have done it. Well, that's ridiculous. Of course, that's ridiculous. When we have evidence that shows that the pilot, in fact, did it, it really is immaterial if they can't find a reason why that individual would do it. That doesn't add up.
So what's going on here?
Well, I don't know. It's confusing. This is either a case of incompetence in the investigation, or it's a case of, I just don't want to know. I don't want to know that this was the pilot who did it. And I personally, I put it down to what I would call incompetence. That's bottom line. That's where it is.
Now, what I can't understand, and maybe you can help me, is that they do say that the plane was manually diverted or taken off course, but they don't say who. So what does that mean then?
Well, I think that what they're implying, they're trying to put it in people's minds that this could have been an event that was caused by some kind of hijacking or intervention somehow that was not connected to the pilot. That makes no sense at all. If you look at the evidence in its totality, starting with the fact that the airplane was deliberately ditched onto the ocean surface, then the only person who really could have done that would be the pilot in the airplane. It comes full circle. The fact that they didn't get the information, or they didn't get it right, the information that proves that the airplane was intentionally ditched, they went back and confused everybody with this mishmash of, well, it could have been this or it could have been that. It's really a terrible effort, is what I have to say.
Now, finally, the investigator also says that the answers can only be conclusive if the wreckage is found.
If the wreckage is found, what will happen is that will confirm the evidence that shows that the airplane intentionally was ditched on the ocean surface. The evidence is there regardless of whether the airplane is found. We don't have to find the airplane to prove what happened at the end of the flight, which therefore proves what happened at the beginning of the flight. The evidence is all there. All they have to do is open their eyes to it.
Larry Vance, I want to thank you for your insights today. Larry Vance is a former pilot and TSB accident investigator, and he came to speak with us from Ottawa. Thanks so much.